Good evening. It's 6:31, so we'll get this meeting going. I see we have a quorum here. So calling the meeting to order. First item on the agenda is approval of the minutes of April 1st of 2025. Are there any edits or changes to these minutes? Commissioner Lampier.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just noticed in reading it that there is no reference to Commissioner Correo in the minutes, whether he was present or absent.
Yes, that's something I pointed out to the staff as well. The staff indicated to me at the time, Director Correo had no longer was acting director. His time as acting director is limited, I believe, under state law, and therefore he could no longer be acting director on April 1st. He is then resurfaced as the nominee for the Director of Public Works and has been confirmed, so he has returned to us in his capacity as now Director of Public Works.
Thank you.
All right, congratulations, Director. That's right. Yeah. All right. Any other corrections or questions? Commissioner Zadalis.
May I just want to recognize abstaining since I wasn't here on the.
Absolutely. Okay, if there's nothing further, I'll be time for a motion to approve, I assume. Motion to approve made by Commissioner Lampier, seconded by Commissioner Mancini. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed signify by saying nay. The ayes have it.
I abstain as I wasn't at the last.
All that, you did it. If you're lucky, you got there. I almost went to the next item. All right. Abstentions from Commissioner Zadalis and Commissioner Correa. Next item in the agenda is discussion of ordinance proposals. These are draft ordinance proposal. You all received the memorandum from the director, Director Ashman. Director Ashman, could you talk to the commissioners about what is the proposals that the staff would like to send forward to the administration and the city council? And then, of course, it would come back to us for a recommendation and then approval by the city council and the mayor.
Have a circuitous journey, but what you have here are mostly what we call cleanup items. We've reserved some of the larger ordinance drafts for a later meeting. We have been working on a draft on accessory dwelling units, inclusionary zoning, improving our ordinance on the substandard lot. A lot of this will result in clarity and help and save staff time. But what you have here is a number of these things in this packet follow the conversation we already had on the subdivision and land development regulations, and so they follow through into here. So some of the language changes on definitions come from that, like building lot coverage. There are a number of the other definitions come from state law changes. We've addressed some omissions. For example, we have zones on our map, zoning map that weren't on our table, so we're adding them to the table. We're aligning the notice requirements of the Historic District Commission with all the other notice requirements for commission staff by the planning department. It's something that aligns with state law. It'll make things smoother for us. We as we did in the subdivision regulations, we're hope to get rid of the certified mail requirements and requirements that require advertising something twice a week in the newspaper, because that requires us to go to the Journal instead of advertising in the Herald. I think the most novel thing in here was a suggestion that came through our community engagement process with for floodplain management, where there's an amendment to the board that hears variance requests to the special flood management area rules because of the nature of the variance that you want the board that has knowledge of building permits, building standards, and the building code, and that's according to our regulations, that's the Building Board of Appeals, and that is a standing committee that meets whenever there's an application. If you have any questions, we will be going forward and assuming that changes the approval of the commission, we will have to go ahead and schedule hearings on the case. Just the beginning of a long process. Get any feedback from you.
Go ahead, Solicitor Marcelo.
Yeah, and just, we had vetted the ones that you saw. However, the planning department did, again, as Beth said, inclusionary zoning, a couple of other ones, substandard lots, but on my advice, I told them to hold off for 2 months because we have a new pile of bills anywhere between 8 and 14 that might be passing. So rather than having this come before you, having it go through the system, and then in July, something changed from the state. There's a kind of a whole nother package. We're just waiting to see what the state does, and you'll see more substantive items in in August.
Okay. Basically, what you see here for the most part, so I can try to articulate it. Some of these are just basically state law changes. Okay. Well, first I should step back. The question really is, do we want to go forward with these recommended, these ordinance changes? 1, and 2, do we want to do it now, or do we want to do it until after June when the legislature is done? Because there could be more changes. Okay. So if you look at the changes here, one of them is basically the whole UDR fee issue. Having the council actually adopt a fee on UDRs when they come before us. That's something that we kicked over because of the concerns about whether or not we have the authority to do that. There's a few state law changes, some of them about like, that reflect almost exactly what state law says, like household number, basement, cellar, floor area, things like that. There is also the change of the, whether or not the certified mail issue and whether or not they can just go by regular mail with a certification that it was done that time. There's a few other changes, as Beth pointed out, about the Historic District Commission notice. And then this floodplain thing, as Director Ashman noted, this is not in state law, but this is something that the director has been recommending, because I believe, Director, you think that this would have a positive impact potentially on people's property insurance?
Yeah, so we're working regulations with expectations for floodplain management with the ultimate goal of qualifying Cranston residents for lower flood insurance rates. There's a little work to do, but that's part of this process.
Right. And then you see a few other things like recognizing that there's an institutional districts referred to like the education institutions, the government, a couple of things like that. So basically that's what it is. Do you have any changes that you think you want to, do you have any questions about it? Do you want to go forward with this? And if so, do you want to do now, or do you want to wait until the legislative session's over? Oh, by the way, on the end, there's this thing about the notice in the newspaper. Those are charter changes. Charter changes are, as I explained to the director, a completely different animal. They have to go to the voters. So this would not be part of the package going to the city council at this time, because that would create a whole level of, an additional level of effort and stuff.
But the question is whether should we keep it in our back pocket to bring out when that
Right. If
that
there,
opportunity opens up.
right. That would be like, there's 2 times that you could do a charter. You can do a charter change anytime, of course, in the November election that's coming up in 26, or you just wait for the Charter Review Commission, but we can talk about that at a future time. But the director's pointing out that that is something that we could do. So have any questions for the staff about this after reviewing her memo or changes? This is the time. Go ahead, Commissioner Lampier.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just 2 items, and generally, I would agree with these and say we should probably go forward on some of them because it would benefit probably the city to be able to do notice and mailing in a different way as soon as we can. So that's the first issue. When we talked about the notice changes, I do agree with the affidavit and proof of mailing. But proof of mailing was something we had talked about. We had talked about the affidavit being filed, but we also talked about there being a physical piece of paper that the post office will give you as a proof of mailing. That's sort of an objective document. And I don't recall whether we agreed that we might want to have that as well as the affidavit or not. So I raise it because it's another means of proving that it was in fact mailed, and just something to think about and see what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah, the certificate of mailing that comes from the post office is at an additional cost. So if that's worth it, that is something we could require. It is not in our subdivision regulations. We went with the affidavit, the notarized affidavit. that the mail was sent.
Okay, how much is the additional cost of a certificate from the mail office for the post office? Is it significant or pretty small?
It depends on how many hundreds of people you're sending it to.
I thought how it was explained to us
Mhm.
was that the individual would submit it by first class mail, and the post office official would authenticate that this mail was being sent by first class on this date. That's how it was explained to us at a meeting. And maybe my colleagues remember it differently, but I think they're remembering it the same way. So that's what Commissioner Lampier is asking is, that authentication by the post office, why is that not, why don't we have that? And if it's, the problem is cost, how much is the cost?
Not sure I'm loving this one better, but the state requirement is that we use first class mail, and then we've added on top of that the notarized affidavit, with them signing that they mailed it on a certain date. If we want to go beyond that, that would be at your discretion. We were trying to keep our requirements in line with state law and not impose any additional burden. The affidavit seemed like a very minimal additional burden.
So it's $1. So if you send out, let's say, what is it, like 1,000 pieces of mail, it would be,
$2,000. So I want to rezone nights. I was just looking at our comprehensive plan has a whole appendix of areas that we've adopted our comprehensive plan. We have the intent to rezone them. We don't have the budget in the planning office to rezone the center of Knightsville to the neighborhood commercial use that the comp plan says it should be. Because we're talking thousands of dollars just for one neighborhood center.
okay. I think, Commissioner Lamprey, your concern is that when someone puts an affidavit, we're basically assuming they're saying it in good faith, right? And
Yes.
there's a possibility that they be lying. I mean, that's basically why.
That this would be an additional layer of
Assurance,
evidence or
assurance.
assurance.
Yeah.
And there have been times when things have been mailed and then there have been mistakes that are just innocent mistakes that are discovered. So I just raised it. I remembered that we had spoken about it. I did not remember that we dismissed it as a
No, I don't remember
possibility, and
dismissing it
that's why I
either.
raised it today.
Yeah. So if they do first class mail, what's it now about? I can't remember what inflation is. It 60 cents? I always do forever stamps, so I don't even pay attention anymore.
73.
73. And when you do a certified, when you do first-class mail, but certified by the post office that it went, first-class mail is $1.50?
Well,
It's $2 in addition
that's for the
for the certificate of
mailing,
mailing, which I
but
think
an-
is above and beyond what we,
Yeah, an actual certified mail is $6 or $7.
No, we don't want to do.
Even higher than that?
Yeah, we're not talking about certified mail, but we're talking about what Commissioner Lanfear is talking about, which is sending it first class and having them, the post office say that you're,
how about we just accept the receipt from the post office? I guess, I don't know.
the receipt from the post office.
If you took it and mailed it at the post office, they'll give you a receipt.
Again, I'm just.
Yeah, no, that wouldn't, because then
It's
the
not identifiable.
attorney would have to, I'm doing one in East Greenwich, and it was 80 people, and, I mean, you do their first-class mail with an affidavit. And if I had to stand in the post office for a sheet, I would be there if I had to get 80 receipts.
Oh, God, no.
So you wouldn't want to do that. Either first-class mail with an affidavit, or you can do the certificate of mailing, which doesn't add a tremendous amount of cost, does add another layer.
And
No.
and what's the difference in the certificate of mailing again? It's $2 versus what, 73 cents?
70, correct.
And also, the other number that we were speaking of was what it has been costing, and we are trying to reduce it. So even if we were to include the certificate of mailing, the current cost would still be reduced by about 75%.
Mhm. But we still won't have the budget to implement our comprehensive plan.
Yeah, but with the comp plan, we don't have to notify everyone individually.
For the zoning map changes,
Well, it depends.
Do we?
Oh, for the zone, yeah, for the zoning map.
because we have pages and pages of zoning map changes that are approved in our comprehensive plan. And I mean, it'd be, you know, it's up to you, but this city has, financial reasons have been one of the barriers to implementing our own comprehensive plan because we didn't have the financial resources in the planning department, so we just waited for applicants to individually ask to rezone their
Right.
parcels, and they would pay the cost of the mailing themselves, but then the result is then we have these one parcel by parcel implementation of the comp plan with other parcels left out. And so it's not ideal.
I'm not going to leave the topic. I just want to see if there's any other questions people have about other topics or other things in this memorandum other than the notice. Okay, so it's what basically, call it Commissioner Lanfear?
Just one. Thank you. When we are publishing in a newspaper, I think one of the things we might also want to think about is if we want to include any other means of notice, either through, I mean, the purpose of it is so that citizens of the city are advised of what's being planned. And to the extent that perhaps we can include posting it on the city's website or to other social media.
We always post it to the city's website, and we find that that is where most people get their information.
And under law, depending on if it's zoning or planning, we have to post it in 2 locations, the clerk's office and another public building. So,
Notices are posted in the library.
The
for all of
library also.
all the planning department notices.
That's what I thought we had done, but it
Mhm.
wasn't included in the notice provisions that you provided. So I thought we might just want to think about that and include, maybe make it consistent throughout and just have an additional means besides just newspaper publication, which it appears we already do. So all it would
Yeah,
be
it's already
was-
required
was-
that we do additional notice.
But
With
it
the 3
wasn't,
locations is
it wasn't
required.
included in the proposed, what was proposed.
So-
I will check whether it's
yeah,
elsewhere in the
and we
ordinance.
can, that's in state law, Beth, we can certainly amend it. because we're doing it now according to. Okay.
Thank you.
No, support.
Are there any other questions or issues on the memo other than the notice issue regarding the post office? Okay. The agenda does not say we take votes on the proposals. So I just want to get a sense without people raising their hands. Do people prefer the 73-cent option or the $2 option? And, you know, I know people don't sometimes like making speeches, but, you know, if you can kind of give me an idea where people want to go. You know, I'm more of a $2 person, but if people want to do 73 cents, it doesn't really matter to me, to be honest with you. So just kind of, anybody have any comments they'd like to give to Commissioner Renzulli?
Thank you. Does anyone know, or Ms. Marcel, I assume you must know what is typically done in other cities and towns?
Most of them are now are the affidavit. It's about half and half. Affidavit of mailing or the 3806 or the other, the $2 option that we're saying. I don't know the exact form number. So it's literally 50-50.
Okay,
And a couple of towns still haven't changed over from the certified, but we won't count that. So there's no, it's half and half. You know, most zoning applications are by attorneys. They're now on the internet. I mean, the mailing, frankly, is probably the least important, although it's done, we have to do it jurisdictionally.
Mhm.
You know, I would say either the paper or the internet seems to be more important. So as a practitioner, I think the affidavit of mailing, you know, is sufficient, because if you don't mail it and you get called on it, then your application is void because it's a jurisdictional matter. But it's entirely up to you guys as a policy decision.
and just to confirm that I understood correctly, state law only tells us that we need to do the affidavit.
Yes, correct. First class and affidavit, and we're allowed to go higher than that. We just can't, well, there's no below it, but we're allowed to go more strict, which would be that certificate of mailing.
Okay. I don't know if we want to consider this, but I do know that other things, other state matters, some of which I'm not going to get into, but I would consider a little bit maybe higher level than this. They accept a notarized affidavit. Like that's like the cream of the crop. So if we are under financial constraints, I would be in favor of going with a notarized affidavit and continuing with the first class mail to save that money. Thank you.
Anybody else has anything to say about the 73 cents option or the $2 option? Okay. Oh, I see maybe people want to make public comment about this. I'm sorry. Mr. Lima, first of all, is there anybody online that would like to make public comment about this?
I see no public comment online.
Okay. Is there any public comment in the room that would like to talk about these ordinance proposals? Oh, Mr. Murray.
Well, just to be clear, will there be another opportunity to comment, or it'll be after they're introduced?
It's that's about actually the next thing I was going to ask everybody is whether or not we want to just let it go to the council now, or do we want to wait till after June? But, so you may have another chance, but you may not. I'm not sure.
Well, I just have a couple of comments.
Yeah, you'll get another chance, whether it's a month from now or 3 months from now, you'll get.
You have plenty of
chance.
opportunities at the
But I
city
won't have an
council and
opportunity
us.
to influence the discussion. It'll be a fait accompli the next time. I just a couple things. First, on this certificate of mailing, you know, my own personal, since I do these affidavits, I sign them under oath. I could be accused of filing a false document. I think an affidavit is sufficient. All the certificate of mailing is the post office saying we accepted the mail. They're not certifying who they went to. That's all they're giving you is a receipt. We accepted this mail on this date. So I'm not sure you accomplish a lot with that personally, but that's not my. I'm not losing sleep over it. Could I just very quickly run through a couple of, Beth did a very nice job with her memo here, and I don't really have too many comments. But just for your consideration, I noted in the new definition for manufactured homes, and I've never had one, I don't think I'll ever have one, but the state definition talks about sizes of the actual structures, which is not in our definition. You incorporated everything else. I just bring that to your attention that you're not consistent with the state definition. So bear with me. I do take issue with, or not the issue, I don't agree with the approach with the special flood hazard district. I think it's a mistake to substitute the building appeal board for the zoning board. This is kind of a plug and play thing, what's in this memo. I don't think it's that simple. I question under state law whether or not the building board of appeals, the local building board of appeals would have this authority under the statute. There's also an appeal definition within our ordinance, in the zoning ordinance, which you didn't, which says the appeal goes to the zoning board. So if you're going to go in this direction, you should be consistent throughout the ordinance. But fundamentally, the building appeal board is a creature of the state legislature. I know it's in our charter, but it's a board whose expertise based on its makeup is supposed to deal with the state building code. I don't, in 38 years, I've had one appeal to the zoning board under this ordinance. And I just don't respectfully agree that this is such a matter that we should sweep it away from the zoning board. I think it's properly there. It's in our zoning ordinance. It seems to me you need to get it out of the zoning. If you're going to go in this direction, get it out of the zoning ordinance and put it under the city code where the building appeal board is and empower them under that. So that's my thought on that. Quickly on the appeal section for the Development Plan Review Committee at the bottom of page 8, 17.84.190. The only, I understand what we're trying to do there is right now with the development plan review, if you're denied your appeals to the zoning board, what she's trying to suggest is should go to Superior Court. The only thing I would note is that under the State Zoning Enabling Act 452371, we have a development plan review committee, which is different than a technical review committee. Under the definitions of state law, I would just caution you that I'm not sure that is a one-for-one exchange there, and I suggest you look at that. More importantly is, at least for my purposes, right now the Development Plan Review Committee does keep minutes. I think they tape their meetings, but I don't really consider it a body of record where like the zoning board has a stenographer there. If there's an appeal to Superior Court, you can get, you can get the transcript from the professional stenographer. Frankly, if you go this direction, I'd have to think about on my applications hiring a stenographer to come in because I may want to have a record if my next stop is in Superior Court. So I just caution that. The chairman already spoke about the charter. Obviously, those are charter review issues. Frankly, I agree with the changes. The process, how we get there, obviously is going to be a little elongated. My most repetitious and concerning issue relates to the fees under Unified Development. I want to be clear that I don't think this is the way to go. I just want to remind you again that the Planning Commission already charges applicants substantial fees, depending on the nature of the application, minor land development, minor subdivision, major land development, major subdivision. At every stage, the applicant is paying fees, pre-application, master, preliminary, final. You are now trying to add in, because, It's, I don't know if it's because we're a cash register or what, but to impose now on applicants additional fees when every day I read about the cost of housing and development and all that stuff, we're asking people to pay more fees, and I fundamentally disagree with that. But more importantly, unlike the zoning board, this commission doesn't, the applicant pays for everything. Zoning board pays for the postage. At planning, the applicant pays. The zoning board pays for the stenographer. At planning, the applicant pays. The zoning board pays for the advertising out of their application fee. At planning, the applicant pays. You have no out-of-pocket expenses that should be covered by this proposed fee. And so I will oppose it tonight. I will oppose it the next time, and I'll oppose it at the city council. I think it's wrong. And I question under the act, it says the unified development process is part of the subdivision process, and it doesn't say you can charge extra for it. So I say that most lovingly, and I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Murray. Are there anyone here who would like to also make public comment on this matter? Seeing none. Director Ashman, let's just go through a couple of Mr. Murray's points. Do you have any, you don't have a problem with making the change to the definition of manufactured home to make it match the state, right?
No, and there were a number of things I noted down to look up, and we'll address those before we come back to you.
Yeah, because the two, I want to make, if we go forward with this now, I want Mr. Murray to focus solely on the UDR issue before the city council. And the fee issue, because I was thinking like on the building appeals thing, ZBR, I really don't see much of, I don't see why we need to switch to building appeals from ZBR. I think we had a conversation about this
We
once.
did. It's because of the jurisdiction in our code of what the boards hear.
Yeah.
And the zoning board hears issues that relate to zoning, and the building Board of Appeals hears issues that relate to building code and safety. Because this is about structural safety of buildings rather than about zoning and allowed uses and setbacks.
And the other issue Mr. Murray brought up was whether or not it goes to Superior Court or goes to Zoning Board of Appeal. Excuse me, in accordance with appeals of zoning, but whether it goes to Superior Court or it goes to, I believe, the zoning board is what he's talking about here, that issue.
I will double check and work with Steve Marcella on this, but we are trying to reflect what's already in state law where things do go straight to the Superior, certain decisions do go straight to the Superior Court now under state law.
Okay,
And not contradicting that with saying that it goes to the Zoning Board of Appeals.
okay. Like I said, on those my hope with this ordinance was that it was going, with the exception of fees, would be a non-controversial kind of item to go through the city council, go through quickly. So I just hope that the staff looks at that, takes these comments into consideration and evaluates it. One last thing to my fellow colleagues. As you heard earlier from Mr. Marcello, there's a question of whether or not we want this to go forward now. And therefore, basically, it would be introduced at the city council meeting at the end of May. It would come before us again in June, and then it'd be heard at the ordinance committee at the city council in June, and then potentially voted on by the city council at the end of June. That's the fast process. The slower process is that we simply wait till the legislature ends in June, and then we have a pack, we have more changes we may want to make and have it all together. The reason to go earlier is the whole post office fee issue and the UDR issue. Or, that's the main reason to do it earlier. If you want to do it later, it's because you want to see what other changes in state law there is, that's fine as well. So I just want to see what you got, without taking a vote, any hands, just give me some comment feedback. Commissioner Zadelis.
Just a quick question about potential legislation. Changes we're making, could that be reversed or amended by other legislation that could be passed? So,
Won't be.
okay.
That's the simpler aspect. So most of these should not. but I mean, you get a bill and then a sub A comes out and it's entirely different. And, because people call people and legislators and things happen and whatever happens up there. So it's hard to say when, if we're monitoring the bills as well as we can, but when a sub A comes out, I don't know where they get it from. So I can't, but most of these probably should be not changed.
But if they go ahead and change the definition of basement again, we can, we can change our
no.
definition of basement again. Yeah.
My point is, what do we gain? It's a low, can I call this low hanging fruit?
Correct.
That gets pushed through. And as long as it doesn't get changed, no harm, no foul. Part of me says, kick the can and just do this once, but I defer to the wisdom of the entire commission.
Any other comments from the commissioner? Vice Chairman?
Just to follow up on that, could we find ourselves not changing any of these amendments, but having to create new amendments after July 1st?
Absolutely. I mean, new amendments are coming no matter what. So, I mean, Tom's point is well taken, is this is kind of the easy stuff. So we're going to have, to send a mega package to the city council may not be the best approach. It might be better to do, all right, this is the low hanging fruit, or this is the technical stuff. And then we're coming in with the bigger stuff afterwards. So, but that's your policy decision.
Okay.
One way or the other.
So it's basically, any more comments from my commissioners about whether or not about the two different approaches?
President, if I
Oh,
could just have
Director.
a quick question. I'm wondering if we can run
I'm sorry.
something by Mr. Murray, since he's on the other side. Do you see the consequences of one or the other?
The timing issue, Mr. Murray.
I think you should carefully consider this and take as much time as you need, so.
You mean like increase the fee? That's right, Director. Take your time.
No, I think there's some validity to, it's May, the General Assembly probably in the next 4 or 5 weeks is going to be out of there. Why don't you wait till the damage is done and then see what it is, and then do one comprehensive approach. That would be my suggestion. But can I just, there's just one more point, and I know you'd be disappointed if I didn't mention this. Just on the fees, can we just, if the commission and the staff's going to do that, just clarify for me, not tonight. The chart says single-family dwelling, $150. So if somebody proposes a 5-lot minor subdivision or a 30-lot major subdivision for single-family homes, are they paying $150? Are they paying $750? Or are they paying,
Yeah.
That's not clear here, and I'm not blaming anybody, but I was just thinking about that. Because the zoning board, it's pretty cut and dry. You go in with an application for a single family home, they charge $150. You go in with a 2-family, charge you $300. So if you're going to, because your nature is reviewing subdivisions and land development projects, you need to think about how your intention is to apply that fee if it's approved. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Murray. Director Ashman can address at the appropriate time, either by phone conversation with Mr. Murray. You can do it now if you want to. It's up to you.
Yeah, the intention is to parallel what the zoning board of appeals was charging, and only ask, there might be a subdivision with many homes, but only some of them require a variance. And so only the ones that would have had to go to the zoning board of appeals under the old system would have to pay the fee.
Mr. Murray has a further comment.
Well, no, it's just in the context of this is for unified development. So if you, like, for example, if you remember a few months back, I did East Street. There were 5 lots. They all were restricted street frontage. So would it be your intention to charge $750 for the 5 lots or just $150? I'm not trying to beat a dead horse. You should think about that. That's all.
Okay, Ms. Mashat, the director will look at that. All right. My sense from any more further comments about now or later? Commissioner Rizzulli?
I would lean towards later so that we can do one clean sweep and bring it to the city council the same way. That's just my opinion. Thank you.
I'm getting a sense a little bit more on the Commission, Director Ashman, to wait till after the legislature's concluded. I also get a sense that, like I said, we're not taking a vote on it, but I think maybe more commissioners are interested in the 73-cent approach than the $2 approach on the mail, but I'm seeing a little more nodding, but that's what it is. But you can take that into account. We'll be resurfacing. This is not going away. It's just being delayed, and we'll see this all again in June or July.
It's being worked on.
It's being worked on.
It's
that's
being
right.
developed. when
All
we
right.
See it again.
Anything
there'll
else
be-
on this topic? Okay, thank you. Next on the agenda is comprehensive plan Phase 2 survey. So as many of you are aware, we completed an update of our comprehensive plan in 2024. It was approved by the city council unanimously and signed by ordinance by the mayor. So we're going to update our comprehensive plan. We're looking at different aspects, not the entire plan at the same time. But part of that, as the director has informed me, is that public outreach is a component of updating your comprehensive plan. And one way that she has suggested, and she's told me that this is a common way of doing it, is a survey to the community of their opinions on various aspects of the city of Cranston and comp plan issues. So Director Ashman, could you discuss the survey and for my fellow colleagues?
Sure, thank you. So the plan here would be to have a survey that we have open for quite a long period of time, of months. And as we go out and do workshops or we have interactive displays and posters at, say, a farmer's market, we would promote the survey over a course of months to try to get as broad participation in the survey as possible. One of the things that the state requires and looks at in approving a comprehensive plan is whether we've done adequate community engagement. So this is just one tool to reach beyond people who come to planning meetings. So our consultant gave us a draft. We worked on it internally in the planning department to try to customize it to some of the things we've been hearing in our planning discussions in Cranston and that are in our first draft of the comprehensive plan. But we wanted to give, before we put this together, have the consultant put it on a web platform. I wanted to give a chance for people to look over the questions, see if there's something you'd really like to ask that isn't here, or if you have a problem with the way a question is asked, we could talk about that before we go live. We worked real hard to keep it, keep it from being an endless survey because, the shorter the better. But we can definitely want you to take your time. You can give feedback tonight. You can also email me later after if you need more time to read it. But yeah, this is what we have developed for your consideration.
Thank you, Director Ashman. One other thing I'd like to add before I ask questions or comments from my colleagues is this is not a scientifically, statistically representative sample kind of poll. Okay, this is basically people fill out the poll on their own and then send it in. So there's a self-selection aspect of these surveys. It's not like people calling at home or on, scientific polls where they ask public opinion and you measure it. This is more self-selected. So that should be taken into account when we do get the results. But is there any questions for Director Ashman or suggestions or changes that you'd like to make at this time? If not, you have a further opportunity though. Commissioner Lampier.
Well, if it would be more efficient for me to speak with you outside of our meeting, I would be happy to do that, but
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, okay. So I was going to say, Director Ashman, when is it like a good drop dead date for people to get to you and talk to you about changes they'd like to see or additional questions? I know you want to go live with this at some point.
Yeah, if we could have all comments by next week. And if anything needs further consideration, I can reach back out with the final draft to everybody.
Yeah, sure. Commissioner Lampier?
Just want to be certain by next week, the end of next week.
If you like, it could be, yeah, let's give it a date certain.
Okay.
I was thinking 1 week from today, but it could be Friday of next week if you like. So
Commissioner
the
Zadalis.
16th of May.
16th of May.
Thank you.
Commissioner Zadalis?
No, I was gonna reach out with my comments directly to Ms. Ashman. In terms of the survey, what means are we using or proposing?
So it will be a web-based survey. The consultant will put it together in their survey
Okay, on
platform.
their platform.
And we'll have a QR code, we'll have
Yeah.
a link to it on our website, and we're just going to promote it as broadly as we can, using partners to promote it.
Yep.
And definitely interested in, are there sports, where can we intercept people who don't come to the planning department or don't come to planning meetings, and bring the survey to them? Like, we can have a poster in the library, we can have a poster in the recreation center, and so that's work we want to do, just get it out there. Yeah, so if you have ideas about where we can reach people, we're going to be doing a series of workshops. We're going to be probably having a tent at the farmer's bar. If you have ideas with your knowledge of Cranston of where we can reach additional people, where they already are and already have time, where, they're waiting around for something to happen, that's a great place for us to get a chance to interact with people and get a broader segment of the population.
Vice Chairman?
So not to jump too far ahead, but what do you do with the responses? Do they come back to the planning commission? Do they go to the consultant? Both? Do we then sit around and sort of digest the responses? And I'm just curious what happens with the answers?
So my plan would be to present the results to you for your consideration. I don't have a deadline. I guess we don't know when the survey is going live. I'm thinking we're leaving it open through the fall so that we can maximize exposure to this through our engagement activities. But yeah, eventually when we say it's closed, we'll share the results. And as Stephen Fry said, you can interpret them the way you like, depending on what we get and how many. And, we added a couple questions about you at the end, primarily for seeing how our sample skewed. Is everybody over 65? Do they all live in the same zip code? That'll be information we'll have if they get to the end of the survey.
Commissioner Mancini?
So my question is to Commissioner Barberi. Is there something that we could do with the Cranston Public Schools, how we do that weekly send out to everyone that has students in the school, that flyer that we get, can we put that in there? Because we put out that for T-ball. Why can't that be about this? And that's not always about. So that's another way to get them. And that's a big constituent.
Yeah,
search.
Reaching parents would be fantastic. And, it'd be great to have responses from youth too, if their parents want, we don't generally do targeted, but reaching out to parents is a good idea. Usually.
Commissioner Renzulli?
Thank you.
It's,
Go
oh, I'm
ahead.
sorry.
Commissioner
Just
Barberry.
to respond to that, it's, just simply, send what you want to send to, the Assistant Superintendent, Norma Cole. And she'll review it and she'll put it in, send it out to the bulletin that we send out weekly to parents.
Commissioner Renzulli?
Thank you. I'll bring further questions offline, but a couple of things that stood out to me was a lack of tiered questions. So there's a lot of, select 3, but if there could be a way to rank people's choices, I think that would be helpful to know what people are thinking. And then just to consider also, I think this is my opinion, I think there is some loaded phrasing in some of these questions. It's not neutral. My example would be question 3.2. It's a little bit leading the language to say to ensure that there are affordable housing options for all kind of leads you into agreement rather than saying, Cranston should allow a range of housing types, including. That's just my opinion and how I'm reading it, like how we ask the questions, does matter for how we're getting
Absolutely
answers.
it does, and I definitely want your feedback on the questions now rather than just coming to the end where we end up dismissing the
Yeah,
results because we didn't
exactly.
like the way the question was asked. Yeah.
And I would be curious also, I know this is not, a poll. It's not a science. We're not getting like scientific data and we're not none of us are data analysts, but as far as people are kind of self-identifying within it, is there a way to make sure the same IP address does not take this 150 times? And that would be a question for, the company that we're using that's going to put this out. There's got to be a simple way to do that with how technology works now. And I would be concerned about that, even though we're not taking this as scientific data.
Yeah, it's a great example of how results can be skewed, and that's
Okay, that's it. Thank you so
Yeah.
much.
thank you.
Any other further questions or comments on the survey? Okay. Is there any public comment here who would like to be heard on the survey questions for the comp plan? Seeing none, Mr. Leamer, is there anybody online who would like to make public comment on the survey questions for the comp plan? Thank you. All right, if there's nothing further, we'll move on to now zoning board recommendations. Director Ashman, I know we have an order here. Before the beginning of the meeting, I went through the audience to ask if anybody was here specifically for the zoning board recommendations, and a resident did tell me they were here for 110 Pond Street, and I was wondering if we could take this out of order so this lady can then go home earlier, because this thing is at the end of our agenda. I'm using my chairman's executive powers to move the agenda around.
All right.
Okay,
The-
110 Pound Street, you can proceed.
Thank you. The address is 110 Pond Street. The zoning district is B1. The future land use map is single two-family residential less than 10.89 units per acre. And a summary of the request is to allow from residential yard exception requirements to construct an unenclosed porch encroaching into the front yard setback. So for findings of fact, the applicant has specifically requested 5.6 feet in relief in regard to zoning code section 17.20.110, residential yard exceptions, which states unenclosed porches may extend no more than 10 feet into the yard. In terms of neighborhood compatibility, staff finds that the property and the surrounding area are residential in nature, and the request does not propose or encourage incompatible uses that would be disruptive to the surrounding area. For the future land use map designation, the B1 zoning district is an appropriate classification for single family residential, and staff finds that the application is consistent with the future land use map designation as it relates to density. As for comprehensive plan consistency, I called out specifically goals and policies in regards to housing and land use as displayed on the screen. Due to these findings, staff finds that the application is generally consistent with the comprehensive plan and does not alter the character of the neighborhood, and recommends a positive recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Brownell. Is the applicant here and wishes to be heard on this matter? Okay, could you state your name and address for the record, ma'am?
It's Erica Crossman, and the address is 110 Pond Street.
Thank you. You can proceed.
So the reason that this is happening is I purchased the home in July. I believe the photos that you guys see are of the home is cement stairs that look like this. I don't know how to, is there a way that I can show this better on there for them? Yes?
I see it.
So the cement stairs did not exist when I purchased the home. So that is a big difference.
They showed up
the
after you
stair-
purchased them?
So somebody already had the home. They sold the home, and the people that had it before me had it for 3 years. They changed the stairs.
Okay.
So I'm assuming the cement stairs started to disintegrate and they put up new ones, which were Trek stairs. As you can see, they are not up to code at all. That the first to the second step is too small. The second to the third step is ginormous. The step is not wide enough at the bottom. It's not to code at all. When they were moving on closing day, they broke the door frame and the door. So they did address that and they put money towards the house to fix that. But when they came to repair the doors, they had built those stairs above the door's threshold. So the stairs had to be removed to put the door in place. So I already wanted to replace the stairs for them to be up to code. Clearly, I didn't want anybody to get hurt and me to get sued. But then it was a necessity that they had to come out that day to put the doors in. So I am not trying to go over any property line whatsoever. This is currently what I am working with because there are no stairs and I've had no stairs since November. So I am a foster and adoptive mom. I have 2 boys that are high needs. One is very much higher needs than the other. We clearly live in Cranston. He goes to school in North Providence where the school is kindergarten to 8th grade and there's only 30 students total. So we are pretty intensive. We have to wear what's called a Houdini harness on the bus because we get out of other harnesses. So, okay, good job, baby. So I am not just trying to put stairs. I'm trying to make it so that the stairs are, like I highlighted it, that they're wider, that they just come into this side and then the same, it would be wider this way, but not coming down any further. And the stairs would come out to the driveway, again, not towards the front of the house at all. So that's not the goal, that it's coming down this way. It would be taking the same space as basically what I purchased originally. Just so I need a place that when I open up the door to let this child out for the bus, I can restrain him somewhere. It can't be we just come downstairs. So I know that we all saw that there was a woman that was missing for a while who has autism. She was found on my street. So it kind of hit home closer of both of my boys are elopers. So they usually wear backpacks with leashes on them. I'm just trying to keep my kids safe and I'm trying to get into my front door. So I'm not trying to touch city property at all. I'm not trying to impose on anybody. I just want a safe place for my kids to like come out the front door and to have steps out of front door.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions or comments for the staff or Ms. Crossman? Okay, is there anyone here who would like to make a public comment on Ms. Crossman's application? Salim, is there anyone online that'd like to make a public comment on Ms. Crossman's application?
There's no public comment online.
Okay. All right, any further thoughts? Okay. The recommendation, Commissioner Renzulli, are you raising your hand? Or just,
Yeah,
I'm
I would
sorry.
just, is it an appropriate time to make an emotion to,
I was going to ask the staff to just remind us what the recommendation is, and then that was going to be the appropriate time.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Positive recommendation.
I would like to make a motion to take the staff's positive recommendation and approve.
Seconded by Commissioner Barberi. Any further discussion? He was, I wanted to put him in the record. Okay, any further discussion?
I would just like to thank the applicant for coming in and explaining this to us tonight. I know that,
Thank you for listening.
thank you so much.
You did a
And
good
for your
job of-
children, doing a very good job waiting
Very proud of them
patiently.
tonight.
You did a good job of advocating for yourself.
Thank you.
Okay, if I hear nothing else, the motion is a positive recommendation. All those in favor of a positive recommendation signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. The ayes have it unanimously. Congratulations,
Thank
Ms.
you so
Crossman. Best of
much.
luck in your home housing project.
Thank you. Have a wonderful night, everybody.
Okay, now we can return to the regular order. I think the first thing on the agenda is the application of Lee Traley and Zuglio on 97 Amanda Street, I believe.
This is a not quite a dimensional variance request, but it's a request for a modification of previously granted zoning board approval. Zoning board was approved, its approval from June 8th in 2022, which was to permit side and front yard setback relief for a garage addition built without benefit of a permit. The applicant seeks to strike the condition that requires that all applicable approvals from Rhode Island Department of Environmental Management. So the reason RIDEM was involved and why the zoning board asked for input from the Rhode Island management is, can you see here, is the building itself is in the flood zone. They started building the attached garage, which is marked in red. So therefore, the entire, the structures in the flood zone. Here's a little, this one's a little easier to see where the blue is the 1% flood area. Basically, this application, RIDEM denied the applicant the permit because they wanted them to address some issues. They're in the rear of the property before they grant them approval for a wetlands permit. So now that the applicant has been denied the permit, they want to, have the condition that to, receive RIDEM permits removed. We believe that we should we generally believe that we should basically, and also important to mention is that they built that garage without a permit, and now they're coming back to us and are asking that we grant them said permit without proper approvals from RIDEM. So we want to
this guy was in, he built the garage during COVID. He was in municipal court on a zoning violation, came here in 2022, agreed to that condition because they have to do it. Otherwise they're in violation of DEM, and now this pops up 3 years later. So I don't even see the validity or the legal reason. I wish Mr. Osilla was here for asking for this condition to be removed because you're still in violation of DEM, and so it other than getting it out of municipal court, which I would suggest we don't do. I don't see the validity in, it's obviously the vote's up to you guys, but I don't see the validity in getting rid of the condition.
Let's see, is the applicant here? Is there any public comment here who wishes to be heard on this application? Mr. Lemur, is there any public comment online?
There is no public comment online.
Okay. My fellow colleagues, if you have any questions or comments you'd like to make, this would be the time, questions for staff or any comments you'd like to make, this would be the time for on this application. Commissioner Lampier, you have your light.
Yes,
on.
thank you. I just want to say, having worked at DEM for over 20 years with wetlands permits and other things, I'm not sure that we would have any authority. I know we don't have any authority, even if we were to remove that condition, to waive state law or regulation over which DEM has authority. So I agree with Mr. Marcella, and I think that's an additional reason for accepting staff's negative recommendation.
Okay. Any other discussion or questions? Okay. Mr. Blingerman, the staff is a negative recommendation, correct?
Correct.
Okay. This would be an appropriate time for anyone to make any motions. Commissioner Lampier, would you like to make what kind of motion?
I would make a motion to accept staff's negative recommendation.
Okay, thank you. Is there a second to that motion? Mr.
Second. We
Oh,
don't do
I'm
that.
giving other people a chance. Commissioner Exter seconded the motion. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. Ayes have it. Thank you. Okay, the next on the agenda was the Chapel Associates application. However, I've been informed by staff that this application has been withdrawn and therefore will not be heard tonight. Therefore, that brings us to the next application, which is the Cullion Concrete application. Staff?
Again, the address is 830 Phoenix Avenue. The zoning district is A12, single-family residential. The future land use map designation is single-family residential 3.63 to 1 unit per acre. The request here is to allow relief from the table of uses to approve the construction of a permanent maintenance structure for the existing concrete business for the production and storage of concrete products in the A12 zone. Here is important to state and highlight the subject property received ZBR approval in 2021 for a temporary structure of 40,000 square feet, so much larger, for similar purposes. The structure has since been utilized and now is removed from the site. Here is aerial imagery highlighting the site. The subject property has frontage on Phoenix Avenue, is located across the street from the quarry. The northern eastern edge of the property abuts Route 295, and the southern portion of the property abuts the existing Veterans Memorial Ice Rink. The proposed maintenance structure is for the existing industrial commercial concrete business, which is not allowed in the A12 zone. Thus, the proposed structure for the industrial business is considered an extension of such non-conforming use per zoning section 17.44.010. In regards to compatibility with the general character of the surrounding area, the 3 subject lots have been historically used for industrial purposes. There is an existing vegetative screening along Phoenix Avenue to mitigate visual impacts. And lastly, there are no current residential uses in the nearby area. In regards to future land use map designation, the proposed use is not consistent with the designation. Staff finds that the following goals and policies from the comprehensive plan in regards to economic development support this application. And then for analysis, the existing abutting land uses are and have remained as non-residential since the initial 2021 zoning board of review approval and are zoned industrial and municipal. Thus, staff feels that industrial zoning for this particular property would likely be more appropriate. Staff remains the same view as in 2021 that the future land use map designation of this property was an oversight within the comprehensive plan, as it should have been included in Appendix A, which was raised within the 2021 approval. And then lastly, staff finds that the proposed permit structure being industrial in use and containing a substantial reduction in size from the original structure would not pose adverse impacts on the surrounding area. Therefore, we are recommending a positive recommendation on the application to the zoning board review.
Thank you, Ms. Brownell. Is the applicant here and wishes to be heard on this matter?
Yes, good evening, Robert Murray. Very quickly, I represented Tilcon, and in 2021 was a joint venture, CNBA and Barletta Construction, when this commission recommended and the zoning board approved the 40,000 square foot temporary building. Anybody traveled Phoenix Avenue saw the enormity of the size of the building. It was presented to the Development Plan Review Committee and the zoning board that it would be temporary. That building was utilized for processing in connection with the combined sewer overflow project in Pawtucket, where the rings for the underground tunnel for the concrete was processed there. And it was a 3 or 4 year project. And last year, as promised, that structure was removed. At the time, Cully and Concrete was not a tenant of Tilcon. They have since are using this property. They have interest in just putting up a small 8,200 square foot shed. There's going to be no processing in it. It's just to store some equipment. There's not going to be any bathrooms. It's just going to be a metal shed, but it would not be temporary. It would be it'd be of a more permanent nature. So they operate there today as a legal non-conforming use. And because this would be considered an extension of a legal non-conforming use, we had to go to the zoning board. So hopefully the commission will support this much smaller building that was supported previously. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions for Mr. Murray?
I just have one. I got a nasty letter from Mr. Mancini stating something different a couple month or two ago. Is that position no longer your applicant's position, or?
I am familiar with Mr. Mancini's letter. Yeah, I have a copy with me.
Thank you.
That letter was written as a result of a surprise inspection by a new building official that was not well received by Mr. Mancini. He perhaps was a little animated in his letter. Mr. Cullihan has asked me to handle this, and I don't want to say that you can void the letter, but we reserve the right to raise those arguments in the future.
Thank you.
Mr. Murray, I have a couple of questions. Just to make sure I understand, the use you're asking, the use that you are proposing here is consistent with the uses that have been used there in the past, in your view?
Yes, I mean, since Tilcon has owned this property, I think in the 50s, there's always been some type of industrial activity on here in conjunction with the quarry across the street or other industrial uses. So the present uses by Cullihan for the storage of their equipment is, in my opinion, consistent with past uses on this property.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions for Mr. Murray?
And frankly, it shouldn't be zoned A12. I mean, I think it was probably zoned A12 probably in the because at one point there might have been a house on this large tract of land. It's pretty isolated.
Actually, that brings up a question I thought I was going to ask you, but then wasn't sure I was going to ask you, but then you brought up. Why doesn't your client just ask for a rezone?
Well, I represent Cullion, and Tilcon owns the property.
Yeah. So it's complicated.
Well, no, it's just that the rezone would also have to involve amending the comprehensive, the future land use map,
Okay.
Which, the ice rink is zoned institutional. Then we go, half a mile to the north, and this parcel still, frankly, I would hope that the planning commission, and maybe I'll encourage Mr. Cullion to respond to your survey, specifically suggest this property is something that the commission should look at. But
Okay.
yeah, if the zoning board does not approve it, that would be an option. But since we are, frankly, I think the zoning code encourages, particularly for economic purposes, when you have a property like this, I think the addition of a structure, I think is not totally out of line.
Thank you. Any more questions for Mr. Murray? Okay. Let's see. Is there any public comment here on the Cullion application? Mr. Lima, is there any public comment online for this application?
There is no public comment online.
Okay, thank you. All right, any questions or comments from my colleagues about this for staff? Okay. The staff recommendation again, Ms. Brunel, is a
Positive.
positive recommendation. I'll just make a quick comment. This is a use variance. I usually don't like giving use variances. I'm going to vote for this because this use has basically been used this way for a number of years, and therefore I don't see a real negative consequence of granting it. All right, with that said, there's nothing further for anyone. We can have a motion. Motion to accept the positive recommendation of staff made by Commissioner Carrero. Is there a second? Seconded by Commissioner Zadalis. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. Ayes have it. Okay. Next on the agenda is the Elmwood Ave application.
This application is a use and dimensional variance request for 1282 and 1290 Elmwood Avenue. The zone is B2, and the future land use designation is neighborhood commercial/services. This is projects to allow relief from the sign requirements to replace a 12-inch by 63-inch digital message board with a 24-inch by 60-inch LED message board, including a message center for each freestanding pylon. Here's the locations of the pylons. Particularly the one along Park Ave is right next to a residential building. Here is the sign plan. On the left is the existing. On the right, you can see the digital message board underneath the sign with the prices. Might be a little difficult to see, but it's this the square right here replacing this rectangle. Specifically, they're asking for a variance from this section of our code, which basically says that any sign that we don't talk about in our ordinance is not permitted. LED signage is not talked about in our ordinance, therefore it is not permitted. And we have seen many of these LED signs come through, and our department has been pretty consistent about vote, like, we're being pretty consistently against, variances for these signs, mostly because we don't have any proper guidelines and there's no proper enforcement mechanisms around these LED signs. And throughout the city, we have many examples where we have these LED signs and it's kind of a free for all. But also we have good evidence. There's like studies that show that they're a distraction to drivers and can increase vehicle crashes. And there's also, they also produce some like visual clutter as well. And there's goals in the comprehensive plan around transportation that say that that would deny this application. And then there's goals around in the economic development section as well that speak against this application. Therefore, we'd like to forward a negative recommendation.
Thank you, Mr. Bergman. Is the applicant here and wishes to be heard? Don't see any. Okay. Is there anyone here who would like to make public comment on this matter? Mr. Lima, is there anyone who would like to make public comment on this application?
There is no public comment online.
Okay. All right. Well, this would be the time for the commissioners. If they have any questions or comments, they could make it right now. I'll ask a question of the staff. So my understanding from reading the memo is that there are no, this isn't one of these like little electronic LED kind of things, right? Signs?
Correct. I can go back to the image.
Yeah. And there's none in this area, like within 400 feet? This area is like LED free? LED
Yes.
sign free?
Correct.
Okay. All right. Any other questions or comments for staff about this? This is the usual debate on signs. Vice Chairman Coop?
Sorry, I'm trying to figure out the practical difference between the two versions of the sign. It's just the very bottom panel. It's different.
Correct. The bottom panel, currently there's some sort of digital panel on there. I don't know to what degree it is being used, but they want to put a larger panel on there now. But I think this is an LED sign, so I think the amount of things they can put on there might be different. I honestly, I don't really know the exact difference between the signs besides that one is larger and uses LEDs versus the other digital sign.
But just to make sure I understand, only the bottom panel is larger. The rest of the signs.
Oh yeah. So this variance is just for the bottom panel because it's an LED sign. So it's the LED. So it's not the entire thing. It's just the LED sign. So because the pylon itself is fine, we allow that.
That stays.
That stays. That's already there. It's just the bottom panel that's an LED sign.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Bergman? This is another follow-up question, Mr. Bergman, because I'm not a sign expert. An LED and a digital sign. The LED is kind of like it moves. It's like a motion type thing, or is it just brightness versus a digital? Just trying to understand what's the difference between the two.
The LED really either of them could be motion signs.
Okay.
They don't have to be. I mean, there are plenty of like static billboards that have LEDs. It's a difference in technology mostly.
Mm-hmm.
Both of them could be motion, both of them could be static, but either way, we don't have any guidelines around this, and this isn't really being enforced.
Oh, so it's just a different. Both digital and LED can be motion.
Correct.
Okay.
It's just what you can put on an LED sign. I don't know if you've ever been past Reservoir, but there's like a liquor store. They basically play like movies. That's
right. Okay. So there's more motion in the LED than in the digital.
There
More
can
different
be
kinds of
yes.
motions. Okay.
It permits for that, but typically if I typically, these signs would probably be more fine if we could put some parameters around like, having a static image for a certain amount of time, but
Right.
we don't have those guidelines right now in our regulations.
Thank you. Is there any questions or Commissioner Lampier?
Just that what Commissioner, actually President Frias was asking, that information was not provided by the applicant in terms of what they intend to use that LED screen for.
It was not. No.
Is
So
it-
I'm going based off of what we see in the city currently.
And I think our experience on the commission is we often have applicants that come in and tell us what their intention is, and we have an opportunity to question them about the frequency of things changing, about the illumination. And so you have not had that opportunity either, is that correct?
No. And I'm also not sure what the brightness is. I'm not sure if there's going to be any motions on there. I don't know what exactly they're looking to portray besides from what they have given us in the application materials.
Thank you. And I think that that's the applicant's burden to come to us and present that, and come to you initially and present that information. And I would agree with the staff's recommendation. I would also just point out, because you said we don't really have any parameters about this, but we do have, as you cite in your findings of fact, that under section 17.72010G, all signs that are not expressly permitted under that section or exempt from regulation are prohibited by the city, and electronic LED message signs of any type are not permitted in the zoning code.
Correct.
So for those reasons, I would support the staff recommendation.
Thank you. Any further comment, questions?
Through the chair, I do have a couple of quick things. I did spend several years on the zoning board, and as far as I recall, every zoning board always puts conditions on these types of signs. Going to an LED sign is probably a more energy efficient way to do it because it uses much less electricity than a digital, which is probably more bulb related. It's much more difficult to maintain. So based on what I've seen, based on what I know, I would be more in favor of allowing this and giving the zoning board of review to continue to put the conditions on that they've always have in the past relative to when the sign changes, in the absence of what we have not been able to do for some reason, which I'm not sure yet, but we've been doing this for years. And I remember back in 2000 through 2010, when I was on the zoning board, we would consistently get these, we would consistently get negative recommendations, and then we would ultimately put the conditions on for the number of signs, messages they could have. You put down how often a sign can change. You put on the conditions about lack of motion, which, as we've stated, some of the signs on Reservoir Avenue are, but that's an enforcement issue on our part, not so much on the applicants. So based on that, I would oppose the negative recommendation, and I would let the zoning board of review do their job.
Thank you, Commissioner Guerrero. Any other further questions or comments? Commissioner Renzulli?
Thank you. It was mentioned by the staff that we don't have like guidelines to regulate this. My question is, who would be responsible for making those guidelines? Is it the zoning board of review to set up different conditions for every applicant? Should the city council be writing an ordinance that basically makes this fair and equitable? Or how should that work so that perhaps we don't have these? I want to make sure that it's fair across the board in various zoning districts.
Solicitor Marcelo, would you like to opine?
So for 17 years, I've been asking for a sign ordinance. Goes to the city council, and either there are digital sign people, there are pro-business people, people who don't want to ruin neighborhoods, et cetera, and nothing has gotten done. It never goes anywhere, no matter, and that's 8 or 9 councils. So it would be the responsibility of the planning department or the building official to try to craft something, but we can never seem to get any consensus to move it forward at the legislative level.
Oh, okay.
Director Ashman.
Yeah, City of Cranston also removed all their special use permits because they didn't at the time have criteria, because the legislature said you need criteria, so we just deleted them all. But this is a perfect example where it should be a special use permit where we have criteria for when it's allowed and how it's allowed. A variance should require a hardship.
That's what I was.
This is a case where we're giving variances because we don't really like what's in our own ordinances. They haven't kept up with the technology and the times, because some LED signs are useful and appropriate and not out of character.
Vice Chairman Coop.
I'll weigh in on this as well, because 10 years ago, I was working with the planning staff trying to get internal consensus on setting up some proposed rules to bring to the city council, and it was not accomplished. But I too sat on the zoning board and watched proposal after proposal be approved despite a negative recommendation from the planning commission. So I do think at some level there's a fairness issue where we end up almost on an ad hoc basis trying to be consistent. And I think we do a pretty good job of it. I think the zoning board does a pretty good job of it, of deciding what's reasonable and what's not reasonable in the absence of any set guidelines that we should follow. But I do think we do a pretty good job of considering what's reasonable and then passing it on to the zoning board to add those conditions.
Sounds like we have some homework.
Yeah, I would say that I would hope that even though it has not been able to pass any city council in 9 councils, that maybe the 10th is the lucky council. I think we should keep trying, and I can commend the zoning board for their consistency, but that pressure shouldn't be on them. There should be guidelines. And as far as this one, I would agree with the negative recommendation, regardless if whatever happens at zoning, because I don't know particularly what they have done in the past, but I think this is surrounded by residential, as far as I understand. And I would, as a former city council person, imagine that depending on what kind of lighting this creates, there would be complaints and the quality of life issues, perhaps, with the homes around it. So that's just my opinion, but I would like to see it be on a regulated, consistent basis so that we don't have to do this every time, and then the zoning board doesn't have to do it every time either. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any other questions or comments? I'll just myself just say is I really don't have strong opinions about the sign stuff. I do wish there was some clear direction on it. So my rule of thumb is basically if there's not other signs in that area that have it, I'm not going to let them be the first, and it's their job to tell me why they need it, not for me to guess. So that's just me. Anyway, ready for motions, whatever they may be. Commissioner Renzulli.
Motion to take the staff's negative recommendation.
Motion's been made to accept the staff's negative recommendation of the application. Seconded by Commissioner Zadelis. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion for a negative recommendation signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay.
No.
I hear no nays on that side, correct? Okay. So the motion passes with 2 nays of Commissioner Carrero and Commissioner Coop. Next on the agenda is Sherwood Street. There are 2 applications related to Sherwood Street. There's 53 Sherwood Street and 0 Sherwood Street, but they're basically part of the same lot. So you can leave it to the staff to how they want to address it together, or there'll probably be questions related to both. Thank you.
All right, first we will start with 0 Sherwood, as that is the new construction. The zoning district is B1, single family and 2 family dwellings. The future land use map designation is single 2 family residential less than 10.89 units per acre. The request here is to secure relief to construct a new single-family dwelling on a substandard lot of record merged with two adjoining substandard lots of record. And here, it's important to note in September of 2007, prior to the change of ownership, variance approval was granted by the Zoning Board of Review for essentially the same relief that is being requested tonight. The only difference is the previous Zoning Board of Review approval specified the new home construction size. Findings of fact, the applicant has requested specifically 20 feet of frontage. In conducting their own analysis, staff finds an official determination from the zoning official would most likely show that lots 1772 and 1783 are merged separately from the subject lot of this application, lot 1784. The applicant submitted their own neighborhood compatibility analysis, and staff went through and confirmed those findings, and then made their own findings as well. I'm not going to go through all of them as they're included in the report, but most notably, the average mean lot size of single-family residential lots within 400 feet is 5,066 square feet, roughly, with a density of 9.78 units per acre. 76% roughly are above the proposed lot size of this application. And then there are a total of 23 undeveloped lots within 400 feet. And an informal review of GIS suggests that over 70% of the single family lots within 400 feet have non-conforming frontage. The proposed density that would result from the new single family home is in compliance with the FLUM designation as 17.24 units per acre. And then I noted here housing goals and policies under the comprehensive plan that we find support this application. Therefore, on this application, we are forwarding a positive recommendation. The next subject property is 53 Sherwood. The request here is to secure relief for the location of the existing residential structure to establish zoning compliance in relation to lot size and frontage requirements. So here specifically, the applicant is requesting 20 feet of relief for frontage and 1,656 square feet of lot size relief. And then most notably for neighborhood compatibility for this application, I note the average lot size of the two-family residential lots within 400 feet is 5,295 square feet with an average density of 19.4 units per acre. 21% of all two-family residential lots are above the proposed lot size of this application. For future land use map designation, this application is above the designation at 13.8 units per acre. Staff finds, again, that the same policies and action goals from the comprehensive plan support this application. And then analysis, it's important to point out the reason why we're issuing a positive recommendation on both applications is that Housing Policy 5.2 and Land Use Action 29 speak to how zoning should match the existing neighborhoods, unit types, and underlining zoning FLUM designation. And the existing density of two-family residences already exceeds that designation. While the proposed use is inconsistent with the FLUM designation, Staff finds that the proposal is generally consistent with the surrounding area and is supported by the goals and policies of the comprehensive plan, specifically in regard to development, residential development. Therefore, we are issuing a positive recommendation on the application to the zoning board of review. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Brownell. Is the applicant present and wishes to be heard on the Sherwood Street applications?
Yes, thank you. Again, Robert Murray for the applicant, owner applicant, Janina Tamian. Grace went through this. I think it's pretty self-explanatory. We have an existing two-family that would, in a B1 zone, normally require 8,000. We have a little over 6,000, and we don't have the 60 feet of frontage. She'd like to build a single-family house on the adjoining 6,000 square feet, which would be permitted except for the street frontage. As Grace noted, in 2007, almost a very similar application. This time, Mr. Peichel asked me to break it up into two separate applications. He likes to do that now when there's an existing house on one lot. Back in 2007, there was only one combined application, and a very wise zoning board member named Correo made a motion to approve the application for the former owner. So he was profound in his wisdom. So I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Bob, I just have one question, I guess, for the board. The easement, is that a deeded easement, or was that just noted on the plan?
No, I've provided to the zoning board in my package, I gave the staff a copy of the proposed easement.
Okay.
It will be a shared driveway, but it's already, the meets and bounds has already been determined.
Okay.
And it will be recorded. It will be a recorded easement.
Mr. Murray? You would imagine that commissioners may have some questions, so I'm one of them, unfortunately. I just want to go through it quickly so I understand it. Right now, this is one merged lot, right?
No,
That's two lots right now?
there are 3 lots involved. The two-family is on 2 lots back to back,
Yep.
a little over 6,000. And then there's a separate 6,000 square foot lot. So it was determined those lots did not merge, but between them, they do not have the 120 feet of frontage. So the unmerged lot for the single family house,
Yep.
we can meet the setbacks to build the house. We're not asking for any relief. It's just the dimensional relief needed for the frontage.
Okay. And what I understand is it exceeds the density in the comprehensive plan, right?
The single family house will meet it. I believe on the calculation Grace presented to you, the two family would be a little slightly over.
Okay. And your argument regardless of that is?
My argument is that looking at the vacant lot where the single family house is proposed, we can meet the requirements before the zoning board for a dimensional variance. That denial will amount to more than a mere inconvenience, that the frontage is very similar to other lots along Sherwood Street in the general area. The analysis I did was very similar to what the staff did. I didn't, we were very close to our conclusions. This is consistent with the area, and since the lots in that merge, they are under common ownership right now, but now merged. So the two-family house does get credit for the frontage of the lot next door, but they're not merged. So we're asking the zoning board to allow the two-family home to stay on the 2 lots back to back with the insufficient street frontage under the B1 requirement.
And your analysis was, and if I characterize it incorrectly, I think the staff was comparable to yours, was that basically somewhere in the range of 80% of the lots in this area are comparable, or either, what was it? smaller size than what you're proposing for these lots? Is that the number approximately?
Yeah, I apologize. I can grab my analysis, but I think that's my recollection if Grace has hers available.
I'm just trying to understand, because there's a lot of numbers being thrown, so I was just like,
We're trying to dazzle you.
yeah, I know it's like 81, 87%. These are, I think was that the size lots that would result from this application if it was adopted, about 81 or 87 of the lots in the 200 or 400-foot zone would be smaller than what that's right. Okay. So this would be, all right, I understand that. Last question then is this shared driveway issue. How sometimes sharing things amongst people you live with is difficult. You're asking people to share a driveway who don't live with each other and are in different units. And I'm just wondering, how's this going to work?
Well, first of all, it'll be a deeded easement. It will run with the land in perpetuity unless the parties agree to dissolve it. It will both properties get the benefit and the burden of it. I'll defer to Mr. Marcello, but the shared driveway is not that uncommon. It just so happens it works better with the shared driveway as if we had to provide the parking on each individual lot, because the driveway gets the parking to the rear of the buildings, and so we don't have if we had to put two driveways on the properties, particularly the existing two families, problematic. So we're trying to, and the shared driveway was proposed in 2007. It's not a new.
And is the size of the shared driveway, is it big enough to accommodate like how many vehicles?
Well, the driveway is not necessarily, well, it could be used for parking. It's more to get access to the rear of the building. So the dimensions are on the plan, but I have a copy of. Bear with me.
Yeah, so the parking spaces aren't in the driveway. The driveway is just to give access to the parking spaces.
Oh, okay. All right. Now you don't have to worry about dimensions then, Mr. Murray.
So if they park in the driveway, that's lousy.
Okay. I just wanted to know like how's this, I'm talking about I was more concerned about the off-street parking issue.
Yeah, so the parking's in the back. Usually the easement would say you can't park in the, you're not going to be able to park in the easement.
Yeah.
I know you're against the urbanization of Cranston.
Right.
However, these are very common in Providence. You see it all of the time on, Federal Hill and other areas. And
no, I understand now. It's if the driveway is a means to the parking rather than the place where they'll be parking. I don't have a concern then. Thank you on that. All right, thank you. Is there any other questions or comments for Commissioner Lampier?
The driveway or the passage to get to where the parking is it wide enough to accommodate more than one vehicle at a time?
If that question is directed at me, Commissioner Lampier.
Anyone who has knowledge to
Yeah, no,
answer
I
it.
want to be responsive. Just bear with me. In all honesty, I would say that it is for a singular vehicle to get to the rear of the property. So that will require some common sense and cooperation between the two property owners.
And that is for both residences, correct? The parking is in the back.
It will be an easement declared for the benefit of both properties.
Okay. And I know there was a very thorough analysis done of lots and other structures that exist in the area. Are there other shared driveways in this area?
I have no knowledge of it. I did not, that was not part of the analysis I did. I couldn't speak to it. I don't want to say there isn't, but I have no knowledge of any existing ones. There could be.
And staff is not aware either. Is that correct? if there are other shared easements that are driveways for properties in the area.
No, that was not part of my analysis.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments for the applicant or staff at this time? Okay,
Thank you.
thank you, Mr. Murray. Is there any public comment present who would like to comment on the Sherwood Street applications? Is there anyone online that would like to comment on the Sherwood Street applications, Mr. Lima?
There's no public comment online.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Brunel, could you just remind the commission of what the staff recommendation is on the two applications?
A positive recommendation.
Okay. Now, Mr. Marcello, the motion here should be made on each application separately rather than as a joint motion. Is that your opinion? Okay. Is there any discussion or further comment about these applications? Commissioner Lampier.
I just want to say that I, probably not surprisingly to anyone, will not be voting in favor of either of these. I think just on the density issue alone, obviously it doesn't meet the density of the future land use map, nor does it meet the existing density, which exceeds the future land use map. Instead, it exceeds even the exceedance of the future land use map density. So I think, as I have said before, that we have an obligation to not make density worse, because that is not in keeping with the comprehensive plan. And I think that there are times when we have a piece of property that it should be clear, perhaps it is just not appropriate to put another residence in that place. And the fact that we have to do an easement on this property in order to access parking areas that only accommodates one vehicle at a time is another reason why we should not be approving this. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Lampier. Are there any other comments or questions from my colleagues on these two applications? Okay. Oh, okay. Just for me, this is like the very complicated application for me, because I agree with Commissioner Lampier that this application, the creation of the two-family, does not meet the future land use map density. It exceeds the density of the neighborhood. The problem is that a great deal of evidence has been presented to me that the lot sizes that are being proposed here, I believe, are not only compatible, but are larger than a significant majority of the lots in this area. That's the problem that I'm starting to get to. And that's where I feel uncomfortable denying an application when there's clear evidence. There's evidence to me that in this area, there are lots that are as small or even smaller, a lot of them, than this. That's probably why on this one, I'll probably be voting yes. I see it as problematic as well, as Commissioner Lampier pointed out, about increasing the density. The problem is that there's a lot of demand for housing. And trying to find places for it is not easy in a city while maintaining the quality of life of our neighborhoods. And when there's an application before me where it appears that it's compatible with the neighborhood, I'm going to probably in this environment allow it. But I do so reluctantly and unhappily. Vice Chairman Coop.
I just wanted to, on the density question, I think if I understand the memo correctly, the density is exceeded only by the two-family, not by the single-family, and which already exists.
Correct.
So by committing that second lot to the single family, in a sense, you're increasing the density of a property that's already there.
Correct.
Yeah, so in that case, I think I'm gonna focus more on the density issue for the new property that's being constructed, which I understand is less than the density in the future land use map. Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other comments or questions? Commissioner Renzulli?
Thank you. To Vice President Coop's point, would the density increase be more technical than practical? Because the house is already there. There's no more units being added. It increases the calculated density based on the merging or unmerging of lots, but it's not actually increasing any intensity of use. So we're not actually changing anything. There's already a two-family there. It's just being calculated differently based on how these lots are. We're not adding anything. We're not taking anything away. The same amount of units are there, the same amount of people can live there. So that's how I am interpreting it. I don't know if that's a incorrect interpretation, but it sounds similar to how I think Mr. Coop was interpreting it as well. So I would be in favor for that reason. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Okay. Now, Commissioner Mancini?
I have a question about what's the spacing between the two properties once they would be existing? Like, I own two properties in Eden Park that share a multi-driveway for the two properties. It's wider than this. You can fit a car and a half. Would you be paving from house to house, or is there a grass area on the sides?
Tom, could you please display? Thank you.
As you look at that screen, the proposed building envelope for the single-family house is on the right. You're seeing the outside dimensions of the setback. So we're not necessarily building a house that wide. You know, it obviously will be smaller. The surveyor just showed what the potential building envelope was. So there is separation. I don't believe it's a grass area between the house and the proposed driveway. And there will be separation from the driveway and the proposed dwelling. It's just that just shows the maximum that could be utilized under the setbacks in the B1 zone.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? This would be the appropriate time if anybody wanted to make a motion. And please specify whether it's 53 Sherwood or 0 Sherwood when you make your motion. Okay. Positive recommendation. Is there a second to the positive recommendation to 0 Sherwood? The second is made by Commissioner Mazzulli. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor of a positive recommendation on 0 Sherwood, please signify by saying aye. All those opposed say nay. Nays by Commissioner Barberi and Commissioner Lampier and Commissioner Mancini. But it passes. Next motion.
Staying consistent, I accept the recommendation of the planning board to accept their recommendation for 53 Sherwood.
Okay. Is there a second to that motion? Second by Commissioner Renzulli. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of a positive recommendation 53 Sherwood signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Same outcome as before, it passes with the same nays of Mancini, Lampier, and Barberi. Okay, thank you. All right, we'll move to the next one.
Thank you. Have a good night.
You too. of 120 Phoenix Ave.
This is a dimensional variance request for a property on 120 Phoenix Avenue. The zone is B1 for single and two-family residential, and the future land use map designation is single and two-family residential, less than 10.89 units per acre. The project is to redevelop an existing single-family dwelling into a two-family dwelling on 4,230 square feet, where 8,000 square feet are required. Here's the location of the existing building. You can see on the top right, the existing structure. They're not proposing to change the structure at all, just on the second floor, create a separate unit within the existing building. And also on the bottom right, you can see a site plan as well, and that shows that they actually can provide enough parking for that. They're providing up to 5 parking spaces with this arrangement. And they're only required to put in 2 parking spaces, so this is more than exceeds that. So to the compatibility of the general character of the surrounding area, two-family uses are relatively common in the area. There's 26 of the 83 properties within 400-foot radius to have two-family use. There's also multifamily in the area as well. When showing when doing the GIS analysis within 400 feet, it does show that the average two-family is on just over 7,000 square feet, though, with only 2 of the two-family lots that are under that 4,230 square foot. And the median density of the area is also 10.77 units per acre, so that's actually within the existing future land use map designation. And the proposed density you can see is over 20 for this project, for that lot, for the proposal on that lot. So while the use of two families appropriate, we can see that the general density exceeds that of the area and also exceeds that of the future land use map. And while there are policies and goals and policies in the comprehensive plan that do support creative ways of new housing construction and creating new housing stock, there's also policy LU 18 that is basically says that if we do try to create new housing, if we do try to build within these areas, that we build to what the density is in that area. And this application basically doesn't do that. So as it exceeds the density in the area significantly. So therefore, we are forwarding a negative recommendation on this application.
Thank you, Mr. Bergman. Is the applicant here and wishes to be heard on this matter? I do not see him. Is there any public comment here in the room that'd like to be heard on this matter? Seeing none. Mr. Leamer, is there anyone online that would like to be heard on this matter?
There is no public comment online.
We even lost Drake Patton. Okay. All right. All right. Is there any questions or comments for staff on this application? Okay. I'll make a quick comment. I'd like to commend staff for their negative recommendation here. This thing is bad. When I look at this, it doubled the density of the existing neighborhood, almost doubled the density on the future land use map. And the lot size, not even a majority of the lot sizes, on two-family lots in this area, this lot is smaller than a majority of them. So this is clearly wrong on, I think, on all fronts. So I'll be making a vote in support of the negative recommendation. Commissioner Vice Chairman Coop.
I'll make a motion to accept the staff recommendation of a negative recommendation.
Thank you. Seconded by Commissioner Exter. Any further discussion? Okay. All those in favor of a negative recommendation signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed to it, say nay. Ayes have it. Passed unanimously.
This, oh, sorry. Getting ahead of myself.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I got ahead of you.
No,
I'm so
no.
used to you being like, we're moving to the next
It's-
item, and
I'm
I
getting- I'm-
jumped ahead.
I don't have my soft drink in front of me, so I'm running low on caffeine. You just keep going. Just keep going.
All right. This is for a use and dimensional variance request for 0 and 14 Oneida Street. Zone is B1. Future land use map designation is single 2-family residential. The project is to redevelop a vacant industrial property, zoned B1, into a martial arts studio, and to permit a 16 square foot wall sign where an 8 square foot wall sign is, where only an 8 square foot sign is permitted, and to provide 10 parking spaces where 16 are required. Here's the location. You can see the building is basically right across from the senior center. The bottom left, you can see an image of the building. You can see that this is a commercial industrial building. It's been historically used as a manufacturing building. And on the bottom right, you can see kind of like a floor plan of the building. The building itself is just under 5,000 square feet, and it provides 10 parking spaces on the right. And here's the signage plan that shows the illuminated sign, which I believe, I don't really have exactly, but it seems to be that this is a reuse of a sign that they took from a different previous building, or trying to. And also an important matter here is that illuminated signage is not necessarily permitted as well. So that is also part of this application to permit the illumination. So as stated, this is a previous manufacturing building, but it's still in a residential zone. So for context, the property next door, right around that faces Cranston Street, that one actually has a proposed rezone. So it's currently B1, but it actually is proposed rezone to be to C5, which would be consistent with the rest of Cranston Street. This property did not get that rezone despite the existing like industrial commercial building that's on there. And what's interesting too is that the C5 along Cranston Street, that would actually permit what is the most similar use to a martial arts studio in our zoning ordinance, which doesn't speak specifically to martial arts studio. But like the music and dance studio would probably be the closest when we're thinking like nuisances. Additionally, we don't actually have any standards for like illuminated signage, but there's going to be a condition at the end that I'm going to be suggesting that would potentially help with any like nuisance issues with like illuminated signage. Generally, the most likely issue that could be would be parking or traffic. They provide 10 parking spots, which is below what our code recommends for this kind of a use, but it is a relatively small space. Unfortunately, we're not aware of like what the demand is, and I don't believe the applicant's here today to tell us like what to answer some of the questions. So that could be a concern, but there is on-street parking along both Cranston Street right in front of the building, and they're in front, not in front of directly in front of this building, but near the building. And there's on-street parking as well along Oneida Street. We don't really have any like parking management guidelines around any of this. But if issues do occur here, which we don't really have any evidence in front of us that they absolutely will, but if they do, we hope that the city can work with the business to create some sort of strategies. If it's encouraging, them to mostly do drop off, if it's for, kids, or if it's, there's methods we can move that can work to, make this work in this area. And for the future land use map designation, as stated before, it's not the proposed use, which is commercial use, the martial arts use, is not consistent with the future land use map designation. Though we do believe that it's the inconsistency is addressed through goal 82 and policy 23, because this is an adaptive reuse of an underutilized industrial and commercial property, which has been historically used for that. And honestly, this specific use is probably a much more fitting use for the area than its historical use as like a manufacturing building. So therefore, we want to forward a positive recommendation with the following recommended condition: that just the illuminated signs should be switched off outside of business hours.
Thank you, Mr. Bergman. Is the applicant here present and wishes to be heard? Is there any public comment that wishes to be heard on this matter here in the room? Mr. Lima, is there any public comment online that wishes to be heard on this matter?
There's no public comment online.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments from my fellow commissioners to the staff or comments about this matter? I'll make a quick question and a comment. Mr. Bergman, it's your understanding that this property, although it's zoned B1, has been used for commercial or industrial purposes in the past, correct?
The applicant stated as much, yes.
Okay, thank you. I do not generally like use variances or grant them. However, if the use has already been used in a certain manner in the past, in this sense, a commercial or industrial manner, I don't see a significant harm in continuing that use at this time. Okay. Any other questions, comments, or discussion? If not, a motion would be appropriate at this time.
I'd like to make a motion to accept planning staff's recommendation for a positive recommendation.
Positive recommendation, motion for a positive recommendation has been made by Director Correa. Is there a second? Seconded by Commissioner, with the conditions that were specified, yes. And there was a second from Commissioner Mancini. If there's not any further discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. The ayes have it. Okay, that concludes the zoning board recommendations. We now move to the city planning director's report.
Okay, I'd like to report that we had our kickoff for our community forestry technical assistance project. That's going to be going on for the rest of the year. We also, I think I mentioned, in terms of an update on the comprehensive plan process, we had our first successful community engagement workshop, and we hope to take the activities on the road to additional audiences. And I also, most importantly, I want to thank Grace Brunel for her work here with the Cranston Planning Department. Grace will be leaving us. She's moving up and out. I'm going to be working for the city of Pawtucket, but we have been very fortunate to have Grace on our staff. Grace has joined very shortly after I did. So I want to wish her well and congratulations on the new position.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure to work with you all, and I wish the city well.
So other than posting the planner technician position, and we're in the middle of the process for filling the principal planner position. Other than that, I conclude my report. We will fill all vacancies as expeditiously as possible.
Okay, thank you, Director Ashman. Yeah, no questions for the director from the rest of my commissioners. I don't see any. So with that, motion to adjourn would be appropriate. Motion made by Commissioner Coop. Second by Commissioner Correa. All those in favor signify by saying aye. All those opposed say nay. Ayes have it. Motion adjourned. Thank you very much.